Welcome back to the Blues Box. We did a beginners episode, part 1, a little while ago. Welcome to part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, head on over and do that first, I would say. We'll put a link in the description for you to do that. If you haven't already done so, I'm going to have to ask for a subscribe, please, or at least a comment or a like or a dislike or some hate mail, whatever you want to do. Just do
what you wish
something.
for, Jeff.
Let's get it. Let's interact. So great. Okay, so beginners part 2. So we ran through quite a few. We thought we'd take it on a little bit further now. So tip 1, I've written tip 8 on there.
Is this tip 1 of part 2?
Hey, let's
or
do
is
that.
It tip 8?
This is tip 8 because it just happens to be in part 2. Let's do that.
Otherwise, we're going to get very confused.
Which is easily done.
It's very easily done.
Tip 8: learn other genres.
Yes, definitely.
All right? So we're sat in the Blues Box. We're about blues, but
where did you start?
Where did I start?
Well, you said in the last episode, classical. You were forced to to learn classical.
Forced to learn classical music and read music as well through that. But yeah, no, actually, I've always had a pretty eclectic in mix of music, and I enjoy music from lots of different places. And my mother and father used to play country and western music. Yeah. And they had a duo called Country Spice.
Odd how you really don't like country music anymore.
I'm not a massive fan.
Whereas I love it.
But to be fair, they didn't play the sort of really hyper-commercial stuff. They were always
stuff I love, you mean?
The really cheesy
Rascal
stuff.
Flatts.
Yeah. But they loved it. And I they'd be practicing in the back room in our house as I fell asleep. So genres, but they would listen to loads of different music as well, always putting music on the gramophone, Steve, back in the day.
Wow.
So I would say is listen to a range of music, because that really, if you don't put in enough, you can't pull out creatively.
Yeah, and I think definitely whoever your favourite artists are, if you look in their collections,
they're going to be.
There will be a wide range of stuff in there. So that's why they sound the way they do, So.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you let's say you're into gent, that's your thing. Okay, listen outside of it and find out what else is going on, because you bring things into genres, and you hear bands, don't you, that meld things together.
Oh yeah,
and that's just great, and that's how music grows and moves on, and so on and so forth. So. Get outside of whatever it is, the thing you initially love, and just get a richer musical background going on, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know about, maybe the same, but kind of what my dad was similar to yours. He tried to get me constantly to listen to jazz as a kid, and I was like, nope, not listening to that. I'm listening to Metallica and Anthrax. But I now absolutely love jazz, and I found a way into it. Yeah. And I now love the stuff that he loved, Ella Fitzgerald and things like that.
And that affects how you play blues as well.
Very much so.
That all happens, and
I couldn't play blues, whether it's good or bad is debatable. I couldn't play blues the way I play if I didn't listen to jazz.
No, absolutely.
So I'm by no means a great jazz player, but my playing is very influenced by jazz, country, all of those things. And it kind of ends up a melting pot to sound the way you do, the same as you do. Anybody does.
No, absolutely, definitely.
Don't dismiss any form of music. Really,
no, absolutely. So that's a great tip for me, is just get into those other genres, not just listen, but learn some of it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's tip 8. Definitely. Tip 9 is...
I want to hear you say these 3 words, Jeffrey.
Okay, ready for this?
I've been waiting for this.
You'll hear this again, right?
25 years.
Right, I'll just go into my special place now. Learn some theory.
Okay, go on.
See how I said that seriously?
Yes, I did.
Learn some theory. Over to you, Steve.
Why
should we learn some theory, Steve?
You cannot say those words, learn some theory, and then not take this section.
But I've got it written down. Over to you, Steve.
You may have that written down, but I didn't agree to it necessarily.
All right.
Okay, yes. Even Jeffrey knows some theory.
Do I?
Wow.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I would say theory is a minefield.
It is.
And I think if I'm honest, I believe a big part of the problem...
You're losing me.
...is school.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I dropped music at school.
Yeah, they make it hard, right?
Bored me senseless. And you tend to get taught a lot of theory that you may never, ever use.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying dismiss elements of theory, but when you learn it, try to put it into practice. Otherwise, what's the point of it?
No, it's a good point.
You're going to start, if you're a guitar player, you're going to start by learning your pentatonic scales and things like that.
Yeah.
But learn to use them every time you add a new scale or chord. If you can't use it, what's the point of it?
Yeah.
So I would say, which is something we're going to do in another episode, in a Blues Basics episode, really important theory for a guitar player is to learn to understand chord theory.
Yeah.
It's very, very important, as we'll come on to.
My father was amazing at transposing.
Right.
He'd take, 5 chords from a song. He didn't pass that on. It's not genetic. It doesn't get passed on genetically. It gets passed on through interests and things like that.
Yeah.
And, it's definitely a failing on my side, actually. So I think, I can see the value in it, and it's always been a failing because it's that shortcut. You want the shortcut, don't you, to, I just want to play those chords and I just want to play that song and I just want to, bat out that solo or whatever it is.
Well, I can remember years ago, I sat down one day, I think with a chord book or chord chart, and I learnt maybe 100 chords. And the next day I could probably remember 7 or 8 of them if I was lucky.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
at that point I thought, okay, why is a minor chord, etc.?
Yeah.
So I learned how to build the chord from the name of the chord.
Okay.
So now if I ever forget a shape, then I just understand how to build that shape.
Right,
So that's a really important thing. Tie that in with learning your scales, and they are very closely related.
Can I stop you there?
You can.
I think
stop
that's
me
enough
there.
theory.
That basically is at the beginning stage. You want to learn those things, and then as and when you feel like you need to stretch yourself, maybe you learn a bit more.
Brilliant.
But don't just read a theory book and forget it all.
No, I like that. So that's theory. Tip 10. Tip 10 is plug your electric guitar in. Whilst it doesn't hurt to be practicing without it plugged in, it's more important that you are practicing. I think...
You keep using the word practice, Jeff.
I know it. It's like the ultimate hypocrisy, really.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Oh, dear. I'm trying, Steve. I think it's... I don't know.
It's admirable.
It's abusive, Steve. There's no need for that. You wouldn't catch me saying anything like that to you. So, as I said, it doesn't hurt to not plug your electric in if you're practicing and others around you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But I would say that when you plug it in, you get such a different sound, and you have to learn how to control an electric, don't you, to calm it down when it gets a bit crazy.
Yeah, it's a very noisy instrument, electric guitar, from just the movement of your fingers, let alone
good point.
the gain and things like that.
Yeah, so I think only by plugging it in can you learn to play it cleanly.
Yeah.
Really, but also just the joy of the electric guitar is in plugging it in, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's why we probably both started playing the guitar. The the tone of the electric guitar. Still
absolutely.
to this day, that's the reason I pick up a guitar. It's the tone of it,
Yeah, no, definitely. And these days you can buy things like iRig.
Yeah.
And if you've got a practice amp with some headphones, sometimes you get an auxiliary in, so you can put your backing track in, all through your headphone.
Yeah.
Great. I think that's definitely the way to go. So, I think...
just from a technique point of view, if you're plugged in, you're making sure everything's clean about your playing.
Yeah.
You can't tell that when it's unplugged.
No, and you're muting and your percussive effects and things like that.
Yeah.
That's something you can't really get off. So that's tip 10 would be plug your electric in. I'll edit that out. Okay. I might not. It depends how lazy I'm feeling. Okay, tip 11.
Ooh.
Tip 11 is sit up, Steve. Sort yourself out. It really is about just,
good posture.
Good posture, yeah. So you'd mentioned something, didn't you, about how younger people lose the guitar Smaller, physically smaller people.
Particularly kids, I always get them to have a footstool or something. Not so they're sat in the old classical. I'm not into that.
But that little raised up.
Yeah, just so
a bit of angle on the leg, doesn't it?
The worst thing is it's falling off and they end up with a really awkward wrist. No matter how much you tell them, it happens.
Yeah.
So just that keeps it in place, you know. So just a small foot, not anything too high, just something just so leg is a little bit higher.
Just that slope, isn't it?
Yeah, really important.
But I mean, it's a physical instrument, isn't it? And you can end up with your wrist too far thrown out, or
that's
not far enough.
That's
sometimes.
the thing to avoid on the guitar.
That real
we're quite lucky through lack of flexibility that my wrist doesn't bend much, even when I have to do any stretches.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, particularly kids, you do not want.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure on the.
Yeah,
absolutely, it does. You don't want to do that because over time that's going to hurt. But also, I think is practice standing up. So you get a strap, practice that, find the right height for you.
Yeah.
Slash. Yeah, it's not like punk down by your knees, is it?
I've tried that.
Yeah.
Just can't do it.
Well, you can do like
that
kind of.
Yeah, something
that's
simple,
about it.
but I don't know how on earth
You can't really play down there.
I don't know. Have you watched Slash playing with his guitar around his ankles?
I don't believe
incredible. Absolutely amazing. But then he's not mortal, I guess.
He's not mortal. No, absolutely, very much so. So it's just good position is really good, and it just literally helps you fret it better, play better.
Yeah, it's a difficult instrument. You don't want to make it harder to play than it already is. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Tip 12. So tip 12 is slightly controversial, I'm going to imagine, knowing you, but I would say you need to learn songs. Now, I'm not saying don't learn parts of songs. What I'm saying is learn songs, not just parts of songs.
Then we agree.
Okay.
Yes.
It can be a massive trap. I know plenty of guitarists who can't play a whole song through. An acoustic.
My point is for beginners, complete beginners, if you're unlikely to be able to play a song all the way through if it's something that you're really into. Like if I've got a young kid who's into, and I've got plenty of them, believe it or not, they're into Metallica and things like that, you're not going to play Master of Puppets all the way through straight away, but you can learn a tiny bit of a song, and that is what my teacher did for me. Straight away taught me Kiss of Death by Dokken, and I could maybe play, 8 bars, something like that of it. Not very well, but did it make me keep picking my guitar
Made you excited
and
passionate for what you were learning, and that's the key bit. So I'd say definitely do that. But I think there's more to learning a whole song than there is to learning a part.
Yes.
In the sort of, there's musicality and so on and so forth, but there's dynamics of music, louder and quieter sections. There's the whole structure of a song.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It is. And then playing with others, You're never going to be able to do that unless you've got that ability to go all the way through from beginning to end.
And you learn how to write and compose by just songwriters that are far better at songwriting songs than you or I may be, and you learn from the structure of their songs,
I was watching, those so-and-so reacts to so-and-so.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it was Rick Beato.
Okay,
I think that's how you say his name. He does some great videos, check him out. And he was reacting to Get Back, the film, this out. And he was saying how often they'd be mucking around in the studio, the Beatles, and then suddenly they'd just bang, they're into another track because they were a massive covers band.
Yeah.
And they did covers after covers after covers after, and they could play anything and everything.
Yeah.
So then when they came to do their own music, they had this amazing repertoire to pull from and move on from and borrow from and add to.
I'm sure there's somebody over the years who's proved that wrong, but you can't. It can't come out. I think you said this before, unless it's gone in.
Absolutely. Any creative, I think creatively speaking, you have to have input. Whether you're a writer or a illustrator or whatever it is, I think these things have to go in to come out.
And guitar player, blues is maybe more than a lot. Well, blues and jazz, you take from the people that came forward. That's how you learn the language of it,
Definitely, So there we go. So, try to learn some songs as well as...
as well as parts of
songs. So, tip 13. Tip 13 is, I would say, is play simple better rather than complex badly. So challenge yourself, not saying don't push it, but nail something. Yes. And even if it's simple, even if it's like 2 or 3 chords, nail it and enjoy it and think, I can do that. And then start adding to that. I just think you get that fulfilling sense of, I did it, I've done it. Wow, I've actually, achieved what I set out to achieve, rather than cheating yourself a little bit.
Yeah, because if you're only learning stuff that's incredibly difficult for you, then probably picking up quite a lot of bad habits along the way.
That's very true.
But I would say, still to this day, I write my practice out. Maybe not quite as detailed as I used to.
What are you writing out?
Exactly what I'm going to do. So when my practice was a silly amount of hours, I would have, it starts with this, moves on to this. So in there would be things that you might find quite easy to do, but also something. I'm always working on something that I find stupidly hard to do.
Okay.
But by writing it out, you're quite focused, because guitarists are terrible noodlers. Pick up the guitar, and at the end of it, you haven't really done anything.
Yeah, you've not moved on.
No, so I always say by the end of your practice, try and be able to do something you couldn't do at the beginning of your practice.
I like that.
And it might just be you can play the lick a fraction faster or cleaner or whatever it is. But yeah, if you only ever work on stupid hard stuff, it's soul destroying.
It can be, it can be. But then even with the simpler, that adage holds true to get through it and to nail it.
Yeah.
So even your practice is those 3 chords, let's say, whatever it is, okay, but they're clean, or this time they're going to be just slightly nicer picked, or there's something about them that you're going to do nicer.
And actually, when you think about that simple, I've talked about Kirk Fletcher a fair bit recently, and that is, Kirk Fletcher stuff is not simple. He's a phenomenal musician, but some of the simple stuff is stunning, and he would still destroy you with simple stuff, because his feel is so beautiful. Simple practice, things like your vibrato, the pitch of your bends, all those things.
You wouldn't say Summer's BB King stuff is complicated, but it's just played in a way.
Yeah.
And it's getting that way down, that musicality of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay. So, keep that in mind. Now, tip 14, you're going to have to be fairly strong with yourself on this one, I think, because it's record yourself. Okay, so record...
How to humble yourself.
How to destroy yourself in one lesson. Record yourself playing. I'd say probably with a backing track initially, so you feel like you're fitting into something, but also without sometimes. And look out for your timing, your rhythm, tuning.
Yeah, things like string noise.
Yeah, all the things we've really kind of covered in parts 1 and 2 really come out in this point. Sound quality. Yeah. What does your amp sound like? Have you got a bit of reverb on? What's it sounding like? How is it sounding compared to the stuff you love? And I'd also say is keep some of these recordings over a period of time and just see how you progress over time, because that's really encouraging when you look back and you think, I can't believe 6 months ago that's what I sounded like, and now I'm here. That's a real boost.
It is, and there's obviously a lot easier to record yourself these days than when we started.
Yeah,
so there's loads of things, even on Instagram, of people showing you their little journey of them getting better.
Yeah. I love watching stuff like that, just seeing people develop quickly and enjoy it.
It's a very useful tool.
I think absolutely recording for me is a massive one. I remember the first time I ever managed to record myself, and I was quite pleased. I was like, okay,
it's not
terrible. I actually sounded better than I thought I sounded in my head. And that was quite a surprise, I think. But brilliant.
Very good.
Well, I hope you enjoyed part 2 of our beginners tips. What I'd like to say is, if you've got any tips that you think we've missed, is let us know. So comment, get involved in the YouTube section, please, for us. Give us a like, a dislike if you hated it. A subscribe would be, of course, brilliant. So we'd appreciate that as well, and come back and see us again. So, we've got some more episodes coming up. We've got some blues basics coming up and all sorts, and we'll keep putting the chunks out and keep an eye out for the next episode. So thank you for joining us at the Blues Box. Take care.